Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. I said I'd be back later on. I probably wasn't expecting to be back quite so early as this. Oh, hang on, let me just switch off some of these notifications. So a video that I wanted to do today, I'll probably do quite a few videos today about various things that I'm trying to catch up on. Madeleine Soto. Now, what sort of occurred to me and what I saw on a different video, and I'm going to show that video. Yeah, what about Madeleine's biological father? So obviously Madeleine's mum is coming under a lot of stick, isn't she, for allowing that monster Stefan Stearns into her house to do what he ended up doing to Madeleine. And then, it always strikes me, that mums do get a lot of stick. And what about her father? Her father, could he not have protected Madeleine better? Did he not have any idea about what was going on? I know he wasn't living in the actual household. But so I thought it'd be interesting to try and find out a little bit about the history of Madeleine and her biological father, and how Jen Soto came to be in that horrible relationship. Or, well, we don't know if it's a horrible relationship, but in that relationship with that horrible man, Stefan Stearns. So I've looked into it a little bit, and we're going to look at that. We're going to look at a few different things about this case. So for just a reminder for anybody who doesn't know, anyone who's just coming in, joining this case, not everybody, we always think everybody knows about cases that we know about, but of course they don't. But this little girl, look how cute, Madeleine Soto. This is her biological father, but unfortunately for her, he and her mother split up. I don't know if they were hardly together while she was actually born. And her mother started a relationship with a new man called Stefan Stearns, who it now turns out abused Madeleine over a long period of time, at least from when she was 11 years old. And it culminated with the murder of Madeleine Soto. Now, still nobody has been charged with murder. So the mother has not been charged, her mum has not been charged with anything, Jennifer Soto, and even Stefan Stearns himself has not been charged with murder. But he doesn't need to be charged with murder yet, because when he was arrested and he handed over his phone, or before he was arrested, when he handed over his phone, that is accidentally, he had done a factory reset on his phone. But of course, it didn't stop the fact that the police could find all these horrible pictures, videos, photos, images of a poor little Madeleine from at least when she was 11 years old, maybe even 5 years. That it's not, we're not sure exactly what videos, etc., and pictures were on there. We just have seen, the counts, like the court's documents. And he has been charged with 60 different charges, all associated really with, abuse of a minor or child PORN on his telephone. 60 counts based on the evidence that they took from his factory reset telephone that he thought would get rid of all this evidence, which of course it didn't. 60, and that is only things that is documented on his telephone. That's besides whatever else he might have done over the years, that he didn't take a video of, or he didn't take a picture of, etc. So 60 counts Stefan Stearns has been charged with. He is in prison. He's not coming out of prison, whatever happens. And then, of course, Madeleine disappeared. Her body was found. There's also CCTV of her stepfather, Stefan Stearns, throwing away some of her belongings, her computer, etc., things that she would have used for school. And also the CCTV of him with Madeleine in the car when she's thought to be actually already deceased when this CCTV was taken. Now, we haven't seen that CCTV, but the police have told us about it. So in the mix of all this, her mum, Jen, gave conflicting information. If you look back on any of my videos on the Madeleine Soto playlist, we've seen Jen speaking. She's very conflicting. The things she said that she saw Madeleine on the morning that she went to school, and it was that she took her to school, then it was Stefan took her to school, and they both took her to school. You know, she's told many, you know, she has told conflicting evidence. So yeah, all these aspersions have been cast on the mother, Jen Soto. Did she know about the abuse? Was she in a, you know, my personal opinion, I think she may well have been in a coercive relationship herself. I'm not excusing her. I mean, if she knew what was happening with her daughter, it's terrible that she didn't say anything. But did she know, or was she just manipulated? You know, this is going to be the question. Now, she has not been charged with anything yet. She has not been charged with anything. So we do have to remember that. Now, there are rumours that she's now in some sort of, you know, safe place for mental assessment, you know. But again, they're just rumours. I don't know if that's true or not, if she has been admitted to some sort of psychiatric hospital or but there are rumours about that, and that if that's true, that may be a reason why she's not been charged yet, because maybe the police can't charge her while she's in there. You know, basically, we don't know that. We don't know whether it's true or not, do we? Now, so that's sort of where we are with this case. Unfortunately, this poor little girl has been found. She's now, it was her 13th birthday, the day before she died, or maybe even the same day, because we don't know if she was killed later that same day actually on her birthday, or in the early hours of the morning the following day. We don't know. That's not clear. All we know is that by the time, probably by 9 o'clock the next morning, she was no longer on this planet. And we're going to look at some video of her birthday party, also the birthday party the year before. We're going to look at her mother sort of early on in the relationship with Stefan Stearns, and you'll see a big difference in how she looked then. And it just makes you wonder what sort of a wearing effect this relationship that the mother had with Stefan Stearns, who obviously is a twonk of the first order. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he is an absolute twonk. The controversy, if you like, is how far was the mother involved. But also, you know, we have to remember that Madeleine had a biological father as well. So, you know, he apparently was a really good friend of Stefan Stearns. They were good friends, so he's going to be pretty angry now, isn't he? But the thing is, why, you know, all I think I'm trying to say is it can't always be the mother takes all the blame. You know, what about the father? The father should have been there to notice signs, etc. And the first thing I'm struck with, though, is look how alike they are. She looks so much like her dad, doesn't she? She looks very much like her dad. Anyway, so that's what we're going to look at. Just things we maybe don't know about Madeleine and the whole family dynamic. How mum came to be being single in the first place. You know, because single parents are so vulnerable to these predators. You know, they're vulnerable for lots of reasons, for emotional reasons. You know, they're looking for someone. You know, being a single parent is hard. It's really, really hard. If you think being a parent is hard, being a single parent, times it by a million. It's really hard. The financial problems, and you've got to be the mother and father. You've got to be everyone in a relationship, you know, for your children. It is really hard. So, you know, the fathers can't get away with it as if like, oh, well, you know, they're not don't hold any responsibility. The fathers have to hold the biological fathers have to hold a joint responsibility. And to all intents and purposes, this guy was a very good friend of Stephen Stern's. So what we can't forget is predators, they are like normal people. They don't, they don't have a sign on their head saying, I am a predator, don't trust me. They fit into families. They often, people describe them afterwards, oh, they were lovely, they're the nicest person. You can never think that you would not be taken in by a predator. You just don't know, because these people do not have a sign on the head saying what they are, and they gravitate towards situations. He worked at Disney World. He gravitated towards a single parent with a young girl. This is what they do. So they're clever. So we can't, we've got to keep an open mind until Madeleine's mum is charged with something. In my opinion, we do have to keep an open mind. And if the day comes that she's actually charged with something, and not just being a fool, or, being, you can't charge someone for being a fool to be taken in by somebody. So anyway, first thing I want to look at, I should say hello to everyone, really. I'll just say a quick hello to everyone. Sorry, I was getting carried away there. Hi, David. Hi, Mia. Hi, Kelly. You're back from your Japanese buffet. Hi, Ocean. Morning again. Hi, Jean. I think I don't know, Kelly, if the father saw her the day before she disappeared. But anyway, we're going to get some information now from the video we're going to watch. Hi, Tracy. Yeah, but David, you're right. It would be a wooden overcoat job if he found out. But apparently they were friends. They were good friends. So there you go. Glad to hear Mrs. David is doing well. Yeah. Hi, Jane. Hi, Simon. Okay. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to show you is just a little video, which has got a couple of interesting things on it, I think. Somebody sent me this. Thank you very much. Sent me these different videos. And I just think it's interesting to watch. Let's have a look. What am I doing? So we're going to look at a little video. It's got a little bit of Madeleine's birthday, the actual 13th birthday, the day before she died, basically, or maybe even the same day she died, because we don't know if she was murdered on that day, in the night time, in the early hours of the morning. We don't know the full timeline yet. But we're going to look at this. On this video, there's a little bit about that. There's a little bit about her birthday the year before, very short, just a glimpse at her birthday the year before, on her 12th birthday, and also a little bit of her mum's Instagram, when her mum and Stephen Stearns must have been early on in their relationship, and you can see how different her mum looks. So I do think it's possible that this relationship she had with Stephen Stearns became an abusive relationship, and or a coercive control relationship. And what you have to remember, these things don't happen overnight. When you get in a relationship of coercive control, you don't just wake up one morning and it's all gone wrong. It's a gradual chipping away. It's like a tip, tip, pet, 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 chipping away at someone's confidence, stopping them from doing things, but not in an obvious way. Coercive control, people don't say, oh, you can't do that, or you can't go there, or you can't speak to them. I had this with my partner years ago that ended up in a terrible stalking experience when we split up, and it didn't happen overnight. you know, it's literally, it's sort of like, oh, it starts off with things like, oh, you're leaving me again. Oh, you're going off and leaving me again. And then my friend would turn up at the door, like if we were going to the gym or something. And my partner would say something like, oh, you're taking her away from me again. Make her feel uncomfortable, you know. But gradually, never, ever did my partner ever say, you can't go there, you can't do this. Never, ever. But it was a feeling that he gave me of the chip, chip, chip. And in the end, you know, it's like a very claustrophobic feeling. And it's even worse that you can't put your finger on it. Because if somebody says to you, no, you're not going there and you're not doing that, you can put your finger on it. You can put you know, when you're telling someone about it, you can say, oh, well, yeah, he hit me because of what. But if it's not like that open, you know, it's just like little chips here and there, little trickles here and there. Maybe he didn't even realize he was doing it. I mean, he knew what he was doing in one way, but you know, it was just him, his insecurity. And of course, myself and my partner, we never married, thank God, because I think once you marry someone, I don't think Jen and her partner are married. But once you marry them, they feel like they've got you even more then, you know, and so he was always trying to get me to marry him. And luckily for me, I never did marry him. But, you know, this is what I'm saying. These things, coercive relationships, do not happen just like that. They happen slowly. Hi, Desert Poet Down Under. I like that name. Okay, now. So this first short clip, this is from her 13th birthday. Either the day she died or the day before she died. Certainly the day before she went missing. We don't know yet exactly when she died. Whether she died later that same day, this was her birthday party. And yeah, then by 9 o'clock the next day, Madeleine was not on this earth any longer, was not with us anymore. And she was being driven by Stephen Stearns. He was caught driving his car, you know, on CCTV with what police believe was the body of Madeleine in the back. And very creepily, when he was being interviewed, they said, oh, can you remember that journey to school? And he said, well, she slept most of the way there. You know, it just makes you go cold thinking what he was saying. She slept. What it means is she was dead in his car. She didn't sleep. She was dead. Anyway, so let's have a look. Bless her. So she looks quite self-conscious, doesn't she? You know, she's got a lot of attention on her. Hi, Rini. She's 13 years old. So she, you know, 13-year-olds are self-conscious, aren't they? And you can see she doesn't know what quite to do with her hands. There's a lot of talk that she looks like she's got a little tummy and she could possibly be pregnant, but we won't know that unless the police actually say that from the autopsy report. But if she was pregnant, it will come out on the autopsy report, of course. It will be there. But yeah, she looks sort of uncomfortable. She doesn't quite know where to put her hands. I mean, she's smiling, she looks happy, but you know, how often do people smile and they look happy? Now, we can't see it very well on this clip, but on the video that we're going to watch later, Stephen Stearns was there because you can see him in the reflection in this window here. His reflection can be seen. He's like a creeping, you know, like this Nosferatu figure. He's always in the background, isn't he? You know, he's always there, like he's in the background of her mum's interview. You can see him in his reflection in this window. He's like this, oh God, this horrible presence everywhere, isn't he? Creepy everywhere he is. So I don't know if it was held at a bar near a mum's house or actually at a mum's house, but sorry, her grandma's house. Now, of course, her mum was not at the birthday party because her mum was working. Her mum apparently is an events manager for Disney as well, so they say, and she was working that day. So again, there's controversy about whether she even saw Madeleine at all on her birthday. Did she see her that night? She said she spoke to her, but of course it's a bit weird the way she says it. I think Jennifer's evidence or her testimony is not reliable, definitely. But whether it's because he's told her to say these things or whether she genuinely was involved in it, that is another matter. I'm not certain that she was involved in any of it. I think she was just like, this is my impression at the moment, I think he's manipulated her into a lot of it, which I'm not excusing her for. You know, it's easy to say, oh, she shouldn't have been manipulated into it. But unless you're in situations, sometimes you just don't know, do you, what you might do or what might happen. You think you know, but he will have manipulated her over years and years and years. So he's, you know, he's a groomer. He's groomed that girl. You know, we saw his messages on, was it on Reddit or, you know, saying how he'd bought her presents. And, you know, he's clever. He's manipulated that whole family. And by the sound of it, even Madeleine's biological father, who's supposedly a friend of his, he manipulated him too, you know, into being his friend while all the time he was doing whatever he was doing with his daughter. Now, this was the year before. I find this quite interesting because this was her 12th birthday. And they must do this on the birthdays. They obviously, you know, she looks uncomfortable there as well. You know what young people like, they don't often like being the centre of attention, do they? And she seems to have darker hair there. I don't know if it was dyed or not, but of course her hair now, you know, when she dyed it was sort of blonde. Really, so her hair looks very, very dark there. So I'm not quite sure if that's because it's been dyed or just the lighting or whatever. But this was her 12th birthday, so this was the year before. And you know, you just think when I look at this girl, you just think what secret she was carrying around with her. You know, what a burden she was carrying around with her from that twonk of a stepfather of hers. You know, it's you just think what was going through her head, what burden was she going through. He was not leaving her alone. You know, I expect anytime the mother was not there at work, if she was at work or wherever she was, Stefan would have been there, like, you know, lurking like a bad smell, like an evil, malevolent presence around that house while he was pretending to be, you know, good old boy sort of thing, good stepfather. Oh, look what I'm doing for my stepdaughter, buying her this, buying her that. And all the time, really, what he was doing was abusing her for years. Awful. Okay, let's just watch a bit more of it. So, very short that of her 12th birthday, not much. I haven't got much of that video. Now this, somebody, the same person sent me all these and I thought they were all interesting, but this is especially interesting because this seems to be from some Instagram post of Jen's early on, I think, in her relationship with Stefan, because you'll see how different she looks and also how different Stefan looks. So, you know, he will have come into that household. You can just sort of imagine it. You know, Jen's partner, Madeleine's dad, he married somebody else very soon after they split up. We'll see that in the other video that we're going to look at and we get the information. So I expect she felt quite, I mean, I don't know why their relationship split up. Maybe he had this other woman who he ended up marrying. Or maybe not. Maybe they both wanted to split up. I don't know. But you can see very clearly in this video that Jen, Madeleine's mum, looks completely different from how she looks now. She looks like she's been downtrodden for years, to be honest, now. Oh, because remember we were saying that the actual grandmother, Jen's mum, looks younger than Jen now, I think. So she's obviously something's happened. So you would not recognise this woman with what she's like now. You know, there it seems like, I don't know exactly what year this was, but you know, she looks like a different person, doesn't she? She does look, now she just looks like some downtrodden, I don't know, like I say, she looks older than her own mother. But at this time it seems like she was different. She's smiling, she's laughing, high blank faces. And there he is, the twonk, king of twonks, Stefan Stearns. You know, just awful seeing this picture actually of them together. Yeah, he always has to get in on everything. That's what I've noticed. I mean, when he's, you know, is he one of those, whatever? So Jen was taking a picture of herself and he's got to get in on. He's got to get in on everything, you know, hasn't he? And yeah, somebody's saying there may be medication caught up with her. And then you've got to think, why was she on medication? Why? You know, what was the reason she was on medication? Because I know, you know, from experience, when you're with someone like that, I mean, not that my partner, as far as I know, he wasn't, you know, that sort of twonk, like where he liked children, but somebody who's controlling, who's displaying coercive control, does affect you mentally. You know, in the end, I was having panic attacks. Like, I thought I was cracking up, you know, because that's how they make you feel. And then when we split up, of course, my ex-partner went round and told everybody that I had mental problems because I wanted to split, you know, just because I wanted to split up from him, I wanted to leave him, I must have mental problems. You know, that's what they do. It's gaslighting. Go around and tell everyone that you've got a problem because you don't want to be with them. That's basically what your problem is, as far as they're concerned, is why don't you want to be with me anymore? Must be something mental wrong with you. So it just makes me wonder if over the years you know, and maybe she did sort of suspect something was happening. She just couldn't face up to it. You know, I'm not, as I say, I'm not trying to stick up for her per se. I'm just trying to be a devil's advocate, I think, for Jen, because until actual charges come out, I don't, you know, I don't, hopefully we cannot assume that she, you know, acquiesced in the bad treatment of her own daughter, though some women do. So, you know, that's right. Depression can catch up years later. Yeah, let's have a look at this. Look at him. Look at his face. Oh, God. So, ultimately, I suppose it just depends what we believe, or what charges the police press. They haven't pressed any charges against Jen yet, so, you know, that's it. But, oh, here's Tia coming to say hello. There's my, Princess Tia's coming to say hello. She's getting on the chair. Okay, now the next thing I want to look at, before we look at the interview, there's a news report on News Nation that I want to look at. Sorry, Court TV, that talks about Madeleine's dad. We're going to look at that. But yeah, good company. But first of all, there was another. Let me just put some windows down. Yeah, I found a TikTok video, a Spanish one, so I'll have to translate to you if you don't understand Spanish. From a Spanish news thing about the father. So they say, so here's the dad again with Madeleine on. Look at the way she's looking up at him. You know, little girls, they adore their dads, don't they? You know, they quite often adore their dads. And you can see the way that Madeleine is looking up at him there. She does look as if she does adore him. It's a shame that she didn't feel that she could tell him about it. You know, if she couldn't tell her mum about it, you know, apparently her and her mum, they did argue quite a bit. Well, you know, teenage girls do argue a lot with their mums, you know, but they tend to idolize their dads. And I think you can see from this photo the way she's looking up at her dad. It looks like she does idolize him. But they were friends. That's what this says. Eran amigos. They were friends. And it says the biological father of Madeleine speaks, which he doesn't actually speak on this video. But I'll try and translate for you as it goes. It's only a short video. It's from a Spanish Cinco News. So it's a Spanish or Spanish-speaking news channel.
Soto. Fue a través de un canal de noticias donde se dio a conocer la reacción del padre de Madeleine Soto tras la muerte de su hija en manos de Stefan Stearns, a quien consideraba como un amigo. La cercanía del padre de Madeleine Soto y Stefan Stearns.
Oh, it's not stopping. Hang on. So basically, what they just said there at the beginning was it was on in a Spanish. Right, I'm going to have to listen to it again. I was concentrating on something else. So let me just listen to it again so I can translate it.
Soto. Fue a través de un canal de noticias donde se dio a conocer la reacción del padre de Madeleine Soto tras la muerte de su hija en manos de Stefan Stearns, a quien.
Right, so it just said it was over a Spanish news channel that we got to hear the thoughts of the father of Madeleine after the death of his daughter at the hands of Stefan Stearns.
Quien consideraba como un amigo. La cercanía del padre.
Who he considered as a friend. So they were close, according to this. And now don't forget his TikTok. So you've got to sort of maybe not, you can't believe everything you hear, can you? But this is what they're saying, he was close friends with him.
Padre de Madeleine Soto y Stefan Stearns eran muy cercanos, incluso el carro que usó Stearns para mover el cuerpo de Madeleine fue un regalo del padre biológico. Se trata de un carro gris Lincoln. Nunca sospechó de la relación de su hija con Stearns.
Right, so what he's saying there is that, so it turns out that the car that Stefan Stearns used to transport Madeleine's body was a gift from the biological father. So the car that he used to transport Madeleine's body in was a gift from the father to the family. My God, I don't know how the father must feel now.
Las autoridades revelaron que encontraron fotos y video pasadas de tono de Madeleine Soto. La madrastra de Madeleine fue quien habló por el padre y lamentó la muerte de la pequeña. Mientras era buscada.
So what he's saying is, then he goes on to talk about the photos that were found on Stefan Stearns' phone. And then he says it was the mother. So it actually wasn't the biological father that spoke out. It was his wife. So Madeleine's stepmother who spoke out after the death of Madeleine. Come on. Oh.
Se mantuvo al pendiente hasta el terrible hallazgo. Fox 35 Orlando indica que los detectives pudieron identificar la habitación donde ocurrieron muchos de los presuntos incidentes dentro del apartamento donde Madeleine vivía con Stearns y su madre.
Yeah, and then he goes on there to say what we know already, that the detectives from the photos that were on Stefan's phone, the detectives could identify the room that they were taken in, which was in Madeleine's house, in her own home. You know, your home where you should feel safe. Madeleine was never safe, was she?
Jen Soto. El sheriff del condado de Orange, John Mina, dijo a los periodistas después de que se encontró el cuerpo de Madeleine que probablemente ya estaba muerta antes de ocultar su cuerpo. Creemos que ella ya estaba muerta en ese momento y que Stefan Stearns movió su cuerpo en las primeras horas de la mañana de ese día.
So, just the police, they're saying that they think that she was dead, you know, as she was transported, and she was dead before she was taken wherever she was taken and hidden. That's what the police said. So they're talking about the early hours of the morning. I mean, what happened, I wonder? What happened? This poor little girl, this little face looking up at her dad. Come on. He keeps putting her heart
Habla el
there.
padre biológico de Madeleine Soto. Fue a través de un canal de noticias donde se dio a conocer la reacción del padre de Madeleine Soto tras la muerte de su hija en manos de Stefan Stearns, a quien consideraba como un amigo. La cercanía del padre de Madeleine Soto y Stefan Stearns eran muy cercanos,
Okay,
incluso el
just gone back to the beginning. That's the end of that now. So yeah, that's it. They had finished that video now, so it just went back to the beginning. So Tia she keeps coming for attention. So yeah, now I think the interesting thing there was knowing that it was actually that car that he transported that poor girl's dead body in was actually a gift from her biological father. I don't know. Hi, Wendy. No, he didn't live in Mexico, Kelly. I don't think. I think he was at the birthday party, wasn't he? But we'll find out maybe in a minute. Yeah, and that's it. What Simon says is true. So the father, he married his new partner only 2 months after Madeleine was born. So, you know, we're going to find out a little bit more. Hey. Shh. Tia. Right. Bad girl. Yeah, you're just trying to get attention. Anyway, so obviously some dog going past. But it's ear splitting, her bark. It's absolutely ear splitting. So that's what we're going to look at now. What happened? So we're going to look at a video that I found that was very interesting. Court TV, which I quite like. We've watched a few interviews with this Vinny, and he's talking about it says where is Soto's biological partner, which, why did they do this? It's where is Madeleine's biological partner, her father? Okay. So let's see what he's got to say.
Madeleine was reported missing the following day, and 4 days later, her body was found 22 miles from home off the side of the road in some brush. So what happened to this little girl? What was her life like? Madeleine was living with her mom, Jen Soto. Jen had a boyfriend who had been in her life for about 6 years. His name is Stefan Stearns. Stefan is currently locked up. Police found disturbing images on his phone, resulting in 20 counts of child sex abuse-related charges and 40 charges involving hundreds of images and videos of that abuse. Jen refers to Stefan as Madeleine's stepfather, although they were never married. Stefan is the prime suspect in Madeleine's death and the last person known to be with her. Jen Soto has not made any public statements since her daughter's body was found and has not been named as a suspect.
Yeah, so we have to remember that, of course, she gave those interviews while Madeleine was missing. Since Stefan's arrest and since Madeleine's body was found, she hasn't given any, public interviews. And now there's all this speculation that she may be in some sort of, psychiatric ward or whatever. But I really, I don't know. That has not been confirmed officially. And we know that when we don't get official confirmation of things, all the speculation sort of starts. But what we do know is she has not been named as a suspect so far. So, why not? Why has she, if she is involved in some way, I still think that she's just been completely led off track by him. And I'm not, as I say, I'm not sticking up for her and saying, but I just feel that. I don't know. I don't feel that she deliberately, maybe she turned a blind eye, maybe she couldn't accept it, maybe she just didn't want to look at it, didn't want to see it. But if it turns out, as is being said, he was a friend of the father as well. This guy, he's expert at covering his tracks. He's expert at misleading people. He's a gaslighter of the first degree. He's coming over as a caring stepdad, and in the meantime, he's doing whatever he's doing. And this poor girl, Madeleine, why? Why she didn't tell her dad, I don't know. If she felt she couldn't tell her mum, but it seems like she couldn't tell her grandma, she couldn't tell her dad, she didn't feel she could tell anybody, but she had people that she could have told. But he's been so successful in frightening her, about telling. That'll be basically what it comes to. And in my opinion, probably what's happened in the end is, after her 13th birthday, I expect she's turned around and told him to fuck off, basically. Excuse my French. But I wonder if she thought, look, I'm 13 now, I'm not putting up with it. Or if she thought, look, I've got this boy that I like at school now. I've realised that I'm not supposed to be, having sex with a 38-year-old man wearing a baseball cap. It's like maybe she woke up and just realised. But unfortunately, instead of going to the police or going to Jen or going to her dad or her grandma, she's maybe said it to him and he has just gone ballistic. So that's one possibility, isn't it? Or maybe she was pregnant. Maybe she thought that'd mean they'd be together forever and he's gone ballistic for that reason. But something's occurred, and I think the 13th birthday, in one way or another, has been a catalyst, significant event. Any crime sort of expert, if you like, and every crime channel I ever watch, these significant dates always lead to crimes, or often do. It could be a birthday, it could be Valentine's Day, it could be Christmas, Super Bowl Sunday. What significant events often lead, because they lead to a climax, if you like, of some kind, or a confrontation of some kind. Often there's a lot of drink involved, isn't there, if it's a birthday party or some sort of celebration. So quite often around significant events there are crimes, and I think her birthday has had a big part, the fact of it being her 13th birthday, because it's a big birthday as well, isn't it? Your first teenage birthday. I think that's been significant.
Right now, the murder investigation continues, and tonight we will take a closer look at Madeleine's family dynamics. Where is her father, and how much of a role did he play in her life? Then we'll take a much closer look at the photographs, including this one of Madeleine's 13th birthday. Who is that in the reflection in the glass? Who was at that party? We're looking for answers as we continue to
Yeah, see him in the reflection. There he is, the bloody ghost of Christmas past. He pops up everywhere. Let's see. Let's just watch that again.
It was her last day. Madeleine was reported missing the following day, and 4 days later, her body was found 22 miles from home off the side of the road in some brush. So what happened to this little girl? What was her life like? Madeleine was living with her mom, Jen Soto. Jen had a boyfriend who had been in her life for about 6 years. His name is Stephen Stearns. Stephen is currently locked up. Police found disturbing images on his phone, resulting in 20 counts of child sex abuse-related charges and 40 charges involving hundreds of images and videos of that abuse. Jen refers to Stefan as Madeleine's stepfather, although they were never married. Stefan is the prime suspect in Madeleine's death and the last person known to be with her.
So this car apparently was a gift from the biological father. That's what they were just saying in that little TikTok video that we watched. The car that he took Madeleine's body to dump it like a bit of rubbish in the brush was given to the family by Madeleine's biological father.
Jen Soto has not made any public statements since her daughter's body was found and has not been named as a suspect. Right now, the murder investigation continues, and tonight we will take a closer look at Madeleine's family dynamics. Where is her father, and how much of a role did he play in her life? Then we'll take a much closer look at the photographs, including this one of Madeleine's 13th birthday. Who is that in the reflection in the glass?
There, so do you see? Here he is. His baseball cap on, his grey beard, that is definitely him. So he was there, and there's other people there, of course. It wasn't just him there, but what happened? Was it, obviously at some point he was on his own with her, so.
Who was at that party? We're looking for answers as we continue to investigate the tragic life and death of Madeleine Soto.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great to have you aboard on this Friday night as we continue to cover the story of Madeleine Soto, who was just a little girl. We have to remember that through all of this. This is just a little girl. And any of you who have raised little girls, or maybe you were a little girl years ago, think about her life and what she went through, what she had to deal with at such a young age. 13 years. That's it. Then she's gone. But what she went through and suffered in the years building up to that, unimaginable. Now, when I think of this little girl, you have to think about when you're a child, you know, your world is a little smaller, right? When you get older, the world gets bigger. You meet more people, you go more places. But when you're a child, your world is small. It's your group of friends. It's the kids in your class. And obviously it's the people in your home. So what exactly was Stefan Stern's role? Was he actually the so-called stepfather? Now, it's clear from the allegations that he didn't act the way a stepfather should, but is that the role that he was playing or portraying inside that household? Did she look to him as a stepfather, father figure? Did he have some level of authority and control over her? Right? Children live in houses, there are rules, and we know that the parents are.
You know, the thing is, they're making a lot of thing about this. Was he the stepfather? Well, to all intents and purposes, really was the stepfather, because they were together for quite a few years, weren't they? So, you know, although they weren't married, he was a stepfather to all intents and purposes. He even described her as his stepdaughter, didn't he, when he was talking on his messages on Reddit about all the different things he bought her. He said, oh, this is for my stepdaughter this, my stepdaughter that. So they obviously considered, I don't know if she called him dad. That'd be interesting to find out. Did she actually call him dad, or did she call him Stefan? You know, oh God, it gives me a chill to think that she might have actually called him dad. Gives me an absolute chill, to be honest. But yeah, did she call him Stefan, or did she call him dad?
Are in charge, right? The parents are in charge and the kids follow the rules. And, You know, you don't want to get in trouble. You have to get permission, all things like that. Are these the things that Stephen Stearns, did he have that level of power and control in that household? Was he really her stepfather? Was this a family? Was this a functional family? Okay, well, put aside, and it's difficult too,
yeah, well, it looks like a family at times, well, on the photos anyway, but she's always so smiley on every photograph, you know. It's very sad because you would not know, you know, you would look at that picture, wouldn't you? If you saw that picture, you would not think by looking at that picture, you know, what was going on there. You know, it looks like a normal family photo. He looks a bit weird, of course, with his bloody sunglasses on. And why is he always wearing a hat? If he's not wearing a baseball cap, he's wearing a bloody Stetson. I suppose it's for the sun. I don't know. But yeah, he always looks creepy with his sunglasses on and that. But you wouldn't know, would you? If you didn't know any better, that could be any family. Blended families, loads of blended families. There's probably more blended families than there are not blended families these days. And yeah, she's always smiling, bless her. But it was all going on, of course. It's very sad.
and what is alleged to have happened here, but the rest of their lives, were they functioning as like mom, dad, child? Because in most households with a mom, dad, and a child, mom and dad make decisions about what's best for the child. They take family vacations. Sometimes dad is doing things with child, sometimes mom, sometimes everybody together. Family dinners, you know, all things like that. Did you clean your room, right? Are these things happening? And are they functioning as a family? Despite the fact that they didn't get married. I don't think they got married. Maybe they did, and maybe they secretly got married. I don't know. I haven't heard that. But was this really like back to school night? Does he go to back to school night? Does he know the teachers? Was he one of the emergency numbers that they would call and you would put it down? Oh, if you can't get through to mom, get through to Steph.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I suppose, yeah, was he like on the list of people that were authorised to pick her up from school? You know, was he considered that much of a stepdad, if you like, as opposed to just sort of a boyfriend? Was he actually involved in that way? It's quite interesting. Yeah, did he go along to parents' evenings and stuff? I mean, how close were the family?
Stephen, is that the way this family was functioning? And then another question, well, what about dad though? Like her actual dad?
Yeah, I want to know more about the dad because I've got, you know, as a single parent, as I've been a single parent, and I know what it's like. Mums get blamed for everything. So, and especially single parents do because, but yeah, what about the dad? What was he doing? Why didn't he notice what was going on if he spent a lot of time? You know, why did he think Stephen Stearns was such a great guy? You know, that he was his good friend, close friend, apparently. No, you're not going to sit there and bark out the window. She loves that chair being there because she can sit on it and look out the window and bark. But yeah, you know, where was he as well? So we can't always just say, oh, about the mother. What about him?
What was his role in their life, in her life? How much time did they spend together? How was that relationship? Because the one thing I think we know, based on the allegations, if they're true, and investigators say they're documented on a phone, so that seems to be relatively strong evidence, reliable evidence. Would she have a relationship with her father where she could trust him to tell him things? I mean, you know, maybe you're in the house, mom's there, and you know, mom's living with Stephen, the accused abuser, in all of this. So maybe there's some fear about that. Did she have the type of relationship with her father that?
The thing is, if Stephen wormed his way in with the father, and they were such good buddies, as it seems like they were, maybe then that make it harder for Madeleine to tell him, wouldn't it? So she'd probably think, oh, I can't tell my dad because he's a good mate of Stefan's, my stepdad's. It's awful that this girl, it seems like it was, there's all these family members. She's got this extended family around her. It wasn't just a solitary, just, the three of them and nobody else. But she still did not feel she had anyone she could confide in. Not her grandma, not her dad, nobody. That's so sad. So, and that is probably because Stefan, inveigled himself into that family so well. Everybody liked him. The grandma liked him. The auntie, her Jen Soto's sister liked him. Everybody liked him. Nobody realised. And this is what I'm trying to say to everyone. You just never know. Predators do not have a great big placard on their forehead saying, I am a twonk. You just don't know. In fact, the ones that probably seem like the most like a twonk probably are okay. And, it's the ones that seem the nicest.
Maybe she could tell him, or was she intimidated not to do so? And what are the dynamics between her mother and her father? Like, did everyone get along? Did they know each other? Did they ever do things together? How was all this working, and how did that affect Madeleine, and how would that affect her ability to speak out, her ability to try to find someone for help? Because she was suffering. She was suffering through this abuse. So let's try to lay out this family, Madeleine's family, right? So we begin Jennifer Soto and Tyler Wallace together. They have a child. They conceive a child, and that child is Madeleine. Madeleine is born on February 22nd, 2011. Okay, so we go back to 2011. What a cute.
Oh, so there we've got a picture of her when she was a little girl. So cute, the little red hair. And so this is Jennifer, her father, Tyler Wallace. And then Madeleine was born on the 22nd of February in 2011. But only 2 months after that, Tyler Wallace in April married another woman. So, it doesn't seem like they had a very serious relationship.
Cute baby. What a cute baby, right? So there's dad, there's mom. Now, Tyler Wallace marries Tatiana Wallace in April of 2011, the same year.
Yeah, so he marries this Tatiana literally 2 months later. It's odd, isn't it? So they'd already split up, I take it. Had they split up because he was having an affair with Tatiana? Had he not maybe been in a long-term relationship with Jennifer? Maybe it was a one-night stand. I don't know. Maybe he'll tell us.
So a couple of months after his daughter is born from Jennifer, he marries Tatiana. So what happened? What was going on here? What are the circumstances of Madeleine's birth in all of this? And then at some point, Jennifer Soto, we think it's about 6 years ago, begins dating Stefan Stearns. And he now enters the picture.
Yeah. So he says about 6 years ago, I thought it was longer ago than that, actually. But anyway, unfortunately for Madeleine, 6 years ago, I presume maybe through because they supposedly both worked at Disney. I'm not quite sure how they met. But about 6 years ago, unfortunately for Madeleine, Jennifer and Stefan start a relationship. But what happened here? How did she end up having a baby just like that? And then 2 months later, he marries some other woman. It sounds like she's Russian or something, Tatiana. Very, so... But it seems like they still had, Madeleine had a relationship with her dad. So it seems like there was, it was a friendly relationship, if you like, even after he married somebody else. Or maybe it took time to get to that point. Maybe it was acrimonious in the beginning and just eventually when Jennifer met Stefan. Sometimes as years go on, you know, relationships settle down, don't they? But at the end of the day, who's the victim in the middle of all this shite that these adults are doing? You know, Madeleine. She's the victim in the middle of it all. They're all living their lives, you know, getting married, you know, meeting new people and whatever. In the meantime, Madeleine's in the middle of it, hasn't even got anyone she can talk to when she starts getting abused by this twonk.
So you see Madeleine's in the middle. And what was going on here? You know, it's tough. It's tough being when mom and dad aren't together, but from the time she's born, dad's with someone else and mom brings someone else in. So that's perhaps her norm. But let's bring in our guests and start working through some of all of this. Joining us tonight in Orlando, Florida, Osceola News-Gazette reporter Ken Jackson is with us. In New York, clinical and forensic psychologist, researcher, and expert on violent crime, and the author of the book, The New Evil, Dr. Gary Brucato is back with us. And in Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, host of the Body Bags podcast, and professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, Joseph Scott Morgan. Welcome to everyone. Before we get into the family dynamics and everything, Ken, I wanted to go to you on the latest news tonight in terms of what's happening in the case involving Stephen Stearns, because he has been charged facing, what, 60 counts?
Right. Thanks for having me on, Vinny, to close out the week. Yeah. So this week, the state attorney's office levied 60 charges, among them sexual abuse on a child under 12, sexual abuse on a child between 12 and 18,
So he's going to list the charges now that Stefan Soto, which we've looked at on another video. And when you see them and list down them, it just, and they're only the ones we know about, of course. These are the only the things that he's been charged with because there was video evidence or photo evidence. God knows how many other charges he should be being held for. And apart from the murder charge, of course, which has not been charged yet, it's disgusting.
lascivious molestation, and then 40 counts of basically possessing child porn with the act of a child. So court dates were set this week. First of all, he was scheduled for an arraignment on April 2nd. I'm going to be using terms that you'll be familiar with from your time in the courtroom. It was set for the morning of April 2nd, which is a Thursday. Sometime today, this morning, this afternoon, that appearance was waived. Now, when he was first arrested back on February, the last week of February, he refused an initial court appearance. And then for the reading of the charges, he did not appear in court either.
Yeah, he's refused to appear in court so far. He'd be just sat in his solitary confinement cell. He'd be terrified to go outside because he knows. I'd be surprised if he even gets to his court date for one reason or another. That guy's marked, he'd probably be on suicide watch, but I don't think he'd do. I can't see he'll do anything to himself because he's a coward. He wouldn't do that. He'd be too scared of hurting himself. But he'd be scared of somebody else hurting him, and I'll tell you, there'll be people dying to hurt him in that prison. So he would just want to stay in his cell, do whatever. I don't know. He's probably will he get a video? Will he be able to play video games? I don't know what he's got in his cell, but he won't want to leave his cell. He'd be terrified to leave his cell.
Public defender appeared in his stead. So Stephen Stearns has yet to appear in court, and it appears that he's trying to avoid this at all costs to make an appearance. Now, court dates have been set. His trial has been set to start for the week of the May 13th docket, with a pretrial hearing set for April 24th. Now, you and I know that in many cases like this, especially with something with an expansive amount of evidence, many times defense attorneys will ask for a continuance. Put it down a couple months down the line. There have been more than one people that have said that. In fact, Belvin Perry who was the judge in a case you're very familiar with back in Orlando here about a decade ago, said much the same thing. May ask for a continuance to delay the trial in order to, build a defense.
Yeah, you're going to have to build that from scratch. It's just a tough case.
Exactly. And the other thing is these may just be dates on a website, since we still don't have murder charges in the case. And I think once murder charges are filed, I think all this is going to go up in the air.
Absolutely. I agree 1000%. Dr. Gary Brucato, I want to pick up on.
No, I agree. I think as soon as once people find out what are the murder charges going to be, who are they going to be aimed at? I mean, they're obviously going to be aimed at Stefan, but is Jennifer going to be implicated in any way, shape, or form? I think there's this void at the moment that nobody's quite sure what the murder charges will end up being. Now, this guy's going to talk to this Gary Brucato. I just don't like this guy at all. I've seen him being interviewed about Rachel Marin, and so he never really concentrates on the podcast. He was being interviewed the other day in the interview room, and he was eating a sandwich or something. He wasn't even concentrating on the stream. It's just like, and he just says, anyway, I don't like this guy, but we'll listen to him a bit, but I might have to fast forward him if he starts getting me. I don't think he's respectful.
Something Ken just said. This guy doesn't want to be seen in public. What does that tell you about Stefan Stearns? He doesn't show up for his arraignments. Wait, I don't want to be seen. Don't put me in. He knows in Florida there's cameras in every courtroom.
Well, it's impossible to say precisely what it means, but I think that we have to begin to envision that this offender, if he is guilty, is a lot like a lot of other people who engage in pedophilic acts, a rather interpersonally odd, detached, fantasy-oriented kind of an individual. But at the same time, what we see here are interesting elements of the groomer type of offender, who tends to be a little bit more interpersonally adept and clever. The whole point of a groomer is that you use your relationship skills to lure the victim, as opposed to a more odd person who just snatches somebody in a car or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, what he said, and it's true. He's that kind of person, isn't he? So there are different kind of sex offenders, aren't they, against children? There are those that snatch children and do it that way, and then there are ones like him who inveigle themselves into a family situation, or even their own family. It's not only stepfathers, of course, fathers, do it. So biological fathers do it, and they do it in a different way. And I think they're the hardest ones to cope with, because I think the children, girls or boys, that get the wool pulled over their eyes or get groomed by these people, they sort of, it almost becomes like a love affair. It's not a violent act. It's not them just going out on the street, snatching a child, taking them off, assaulting them, maybe murdering them. This is something that happens, Madeleine, when she was very small, it's probably, he'll have flattered her with his attention, told her how beautiful she was, bought her things, So it ends up, they think they're in love with these predators, because they're vulnerable and they're groomed into it. So quite often they won't even when it comes out, some victims, they won't even have a bad word said about them, because they've fallen in love with them, because they've done it in that way. It's not in a violent way, it's not in an abrupt way, it's a gradual way, and that's how they're the worst kind. And the blackmail that they use, the love bombing, and that's what Liv done with the mother as well. He's inveigled himself into that whole family. Not only Madeleine was like the target, if you like. Madeleine was what he was aiming for, but in getting himself to that point where he could take advantage of Madeleine, he's convinced the mother is a brilliant guy. He's probably convinced the grandma is a brilliant guy. Her own father is convinced he's a brilliant guy. So in a way, he's not only groomed Madeleine, he's groomed that whole family. And all the time in his head, he was just planning on doing whatever he wanted to do with Madeleine. It's disgusting, isn't it?
But I think that what you're getting is a sense of a person who's just not very adept interpersonally, which is probably why he engages in a relationship with a child. I wouldn't expect this person to be particularly good at having adult, normal relationships.
And one follow-up on all this, Dr. Gary Brucato, for Madeleine Soto, understanding this family tree, that her father marries someone who's not her mother right around the time she's born. So stepmom is in her life, presumably her entire life. What's it like for that child? And if that child is being abused, what are your thoughts about the child coming forward or not coming forward to either parent about what's happening?
Well, first of all, I will say that I think one of the things that makes this type of figure so particularly diabolical in the public's eye is that you're talking about an offender who probably took advantage of the fact that this child was missing a certain kind of a figure in her life, which creates a vulnerability where you can come in and be a dad figure, spend time with the person, engage in creating a kind of a confidence. And it's a way of sort of taking a kid who might be feeling kind of abandoned or dropped and suddenly making them feel special. And that is taken advantage of by this type of offender to groom a child and then engage in increasingly perverse contact. What I think is you probably had a child who where the offenses were so normalized over time that she perhaps didn't realize that some of these things were outrageous, or engaged in this kind of relationship thinking that it connected her to this outrageous person. And that's why it is very interesting to think about why the child would have to be eliminated at 13. It makes you wonder if it's that she was getting to an age where she was realizing that what was happening was wrong, or could talk about it, or perhaps.
I agree with him that I think she probably kicked up a bit of a fuss that day or whatever. I don't agree that it was a pre-planned act, because I think he would have planned it a lot better. I think it was something that happened for whatever reason. Maybe it was an accident, that somebody was saying there, or maybe it was deliberate to make some sort of movie, or maybe it's to sell. We don't know how she died yet. We will find out. I'm sure the police have got a good idea, because don't forget, they found her body very quickly, so they'll have been able to tell cause of death, etc. If it was anything like some people are saying, like a very dark thing, like an SNUFF movie, well, there'll be a video of it. I personally don't think it was anything like that. I think it was him going into a rage for whatever reason. I don't think it was planned, for the simple reason, if it was planned, he would have hidden the body better. So he's just, what he's done that morning is he's just put her stuff in the rubbish. It's all rushed, hurried. Put the stuff in the rubbish, take the body out, only 22 miles away, which, it's not far away, is it? I'm sure he would have found a better place to hide her body, if he would have had more time to do it. I think it was all rushed. He's done his factory reset on his phone just like that. He would have planned it. If it was going to be a planned thing where he's thinking, right, I'm going to do this movie and it's going to end with her being dead, he would have planned it so much better. So I personally, I don't know. I'm only giving my opinion. This is Vicki Marie Chats. I'm just chatting. I don't know what happened. But my instinct would tell me that this is something that went wrong. And he's then in a rush then to try and cover his tracks. But, he's done it miserably because he hasn't had time to do it properly. You're talking about a guy who's inveigled himself into the family over years and years. He knows how to plan things, but he hasn't planned that. That's happened just out of the blue for some reason that we don't know yet. And he's gone into a rage and he's killed her. And then he's probably thought, oh shit, what am I going to do now? So his factory reset his phone. He's took her body off, not hidden it that well. As there's so many better ways he could have hidden her body if he was more planned, if he had planned it. So I don't believe it was planned at all. And I just think it was a rage that's ended up in her dying for whatever reason. And then he's been on catch up ever since. And luckily for, you know, the justice system, at least, you know, he was he covered it up terribly. So, but if he would have planned it, he would, you know, I think it would have been covered up a lot better.
Perhaps had aged out of the age range that this offender was attracted to, but it's unclear what that's about. But I think we have to understand the dynamics of abuse, and that there's a mixture of fear and being confused that this person loves you.
I want to put up on the screen a social media post. This is from 2012 to give you an idea again about the family dynamics and the family that Madeleine Soto was a part of. On February 4th, 2012, Tyler Wallace, her dad, posts a picture of Madeleine on Facebook, and his mother, Donna Wallace, writes, "I am meeting my precious grandbaby in less than 2 weeks." And I don't know if grandma lives out of town or whatever, but it seems like she was going to be there with the grandbaby for birthday number 1.
Oh, that's sad, isn't it? So it's very sad for the grandma as well. So that's a beautiful picture of her, isn't it? How sweet. You know, you just don't know what's coming, do you? You know, you see that if nobody knew what was coming in her life.
Another interesting note, we haven't heard much from Dad, and I can imagine this has got to be tearing him apart, but there he is with Tatiana, his wife. And dailymail.com reported this on March 2nd, a quote from Tatiana, who is the stepmom. There she is. "My stepdaughter Madeleine has been missing for more than 72 hours. With Stephen Stearns behind bars, we can concentrate on finding her. Share her photo with everyone you know." That was Tatiana Wallace, who.
Right, so this is a Facebook post, I think, or some sort of social media post that she's put out. She doesn't make any comment really on Stephen Stearns, just says, "With Stephen Stearns being behind bars, we can concentrate on finding her." I would imagine her dad, her biological father, is going to find it very difficult to speak about this. Especially if he was a friend of Stephen's, he'd be feeling awful. But so will Jen, you know. So until we can't judge Jen, just as, you know, we have to wait until we know for sure. In my opinion, if Jen was involved, even if she was in the house at the time, she was on so much medication, she probably, you know, I know it seems ridiculous, and you think, "Oh, how could she have slept through her daughter being murdered or whatever?" But people do. You take a load of sleeping, you know, you've actually taken a load of tablets. Had Stephen Stearns even given her more tablets? I'm sure he was in control of her tablets. And you hear that as well. Had he drugged her, you know, or whatever? You just don't know. And then when she's woke up, you know, just let's take this as a possibility. Can you imagine Jen waking up out of a drug-fueled stupor? I don't mean, you know, recreational drugs. I mean from her tablets that she takes. Maybe he gave her a little bit extra, you know. "Oh, when she got home the night before, oh, you're tired, I'll make you a cocoa," or whatever. Slips a couple of tablets in it. You never know. So she's gone to sleep. Woke up the next morning, probably didn't know what day it was, and Stefan might have said to her, and she's gone, "Oh, where's Madeleine?" And he said, "Oh, don't you remember? You said goodbye to her. You saw her getting ready." You just don't know if that's happened, and she'll be thinking, "Oh, did I?" Because if she's regularly on tablets and regularly sort of taking stuff, there'll be loads of things she won't be able to remember because she was so drugged up. You know, as I say, not recreational drugs, but it's a possibility. So that might be why Jen was acting so strange as well. Maybe she really couldn't remember what had happened, and he's sort of filled in the gaps for her, and she's just gone along with it. So it's another possibility. We've got to wait until the police prosecute. If the police charge her, that's another thing. But until the charge her, really, I think we've got to sort of think she may have been manipulated herself.
Was the stepmom who was stepping in. Joseph Scott Morgan, looking at the world that this little girl was in, it is incredibly sad and tragic to think that she got stuck in that house with this man, Stephen Stearns. And I'm wondering what his role was in that house, if they were functioning like a family and he had that sort of, parental power that we have with our children.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think for me, one of the things that comes up here is this idea that he is documenting all of this. There's one date that sticks out in my mind in this, and I think that there is a date that goes back on, I think, this affidavit that was filed with some of this imagery that goes back to 2019. And you can do the arithmetic there and get an idea that she would have been about 8 years old. Just let that settle down into your groundwater there for a moment, moving forward. And you think about how long this has been going on, and Dr. Gary had made a very salient point about the normalization of this activity that's been going on, and he has documented it all along. And I got to tell you that for the prosecution, this is a gold mine, what they're talking about here, because you're talking about being able to have all of these benchmarks along the way, methodically documented within that household moving forward. And it's going to be one whale of the case that the prosecution is going to have on their hand. It's going to be a mountain of evidence is what it's come down to. And my friend, we haven't even talked about, what the medical examiner is going to conclude at this point, because we don't know.
Yeah, with that hasn't.
All these photos are so creepy, aren't they? That one of him with the sunglasses, where you can see the reflection of Madeleine in the sunglasses. He's just such a creepy guy, this guy.
Been concluded yet.
Let's just have another look at that.
This activity that's been going on,
What?
what the medical examiner is going to conclude at this point, because we don't know.
Yeah, with that hasn't been concluded yet. And we're waiting to hear manner, cause, and any other details that may come out. Ken Jackson, let me ask you about these family dynamics. What have you uncovered about dad and stepmom, Jen Soto? Any word on where she is? I know she's kind of been out of sight for a while here.
I tell you, she's playing the great role of prisoner of war. We have not heard from her. What I had heard last week was that I heard second or third hand that she had lawyered up. When we go back through social media, you see references to Stephen going back to about 2018. And the scary part about this is that the charges, the forensic evidence that Kissimmee police have put together is that that a lot of the cases in the charges likely occurred starting in June of 2019. That's less than a year or so from 2018. So what scares me as the parent of a teenage daughter is that, how long did it take for Jen Soto, mom, to enter into the relationship with Stefan Stearns, the boyfriend / stepdad? I have a hard time calling him stepdad in everything that I've read. Before all this started to happen. That's the chilling thing, where when we get the investigation from KPD, hopefully soon, it will answer those questions. And we've got a lot of questions and a lot of dots to connect and a lot of the T's to cross when that investigation comes out.
Dr. Gary Brucato, what do you think of that timeline of the relationship of Jen and Stefan Stearns, like 2018, and then the first allegation here, based upon what they found on the phone, the digital images, is in June of 2019. Like that, would that be quick in your mind, going from, getting into mom's life and then doing what he's alleged to have done to her daughter?
Not at all. In fact, offenders that I've spoken to have told me that sometimes they choose to marry a woman because they have spied the child that the woman has. You remember, for example, that occurs in the Nabokov book Lolita, where he chooses to marry a woman because she has the underage daughter that he's attracted to, grooms her, and then winds up in a relationship with her. And so the idea would be to become involved, and then there's a period of some months to a year, so forth, etc., depending upon the case, where you groom the child, break down boundaries, and normalize things. One very important elephant in the room here that I haven't heard anybody else talk about is that a person who engages in pedophilic behaviors like this does not start doing that in their 30s.
Yeah, this is interesting as well, what he says. Will this be the very first time Stefan has done this? Into his 30s. Now, we did hear it, didn't we, from his friend, who said that Stefan had put cameras up in that house that he was sharing with a friend and a friend's girlfriend, and supposedly Stefan Stearns was videoing the girlfriend. I don't know how old he was then. I think he was quite young, maybe early 20s. He was videoing his friend's girlfriend when she came out of the shower, etc. And this got discovered. And then his mum, apparently, again, these are all alleged. We don't know this for sure. This is just what his friend was saying. That Stefan Stearns' mother paid for their silence. And at the time, this couple, Stefan's friend and his girlfriend, were very strapped for cash. And so they accepted the money that Stefan's mum gave them in exchange for silence, that they wouldn't go to the police or make a fuss about these secret videos that he was taking. So it seems like he'd done things like that before. But had he groomed any other, it'd be interesting to see if other girlfriends come forward who maybe had young children. Had he tried to groom anyone before, or is this the first time he got the full opportunity to actually groom someone to the point that he could actually have sex relations with them?
Chances are what is eventually going to happen, if he's guilty of this, is we're probably going to determine that this was not his first experimentation with this. Usually these kinds of offenders have scores of victims. Sometimes they've even worked jobs that have put them in contact with children so they can experiment with touching children, finding ways to earn their confidence. For example, I had heard some...
Yeah, so he's definitely picked that job that he did at Disney. We saw the video of him, greeting people on that ride. He definitely has worked at Disney, whether he worked for another company, but at Disney, Disney's saying he's never worked for them, maybe didn't work for Disney, but he's definitely worked there at the attractions in Disney World, because we saw the video of him. And these kind of people, they do look for jobs where they can have exposure to children, even if it's not to abuse them. They like being around children. He's probably like we've seen him being videoed. He's like a child in his own head. That Jen was comforting him, like he was, like he was the victim. He's like this great big hulking guy, pretending he's like about 12 in his baseball cap and, crying in his tissue. His dry tissue, because there's no tears coming out. She's like the mum comforting him. He thinks he's a child. He is a child in his head. That's why he finds children attractive, because he's immature. He's immature in his head. And so he's looked for that job to be around children, to be in children's company, whether he's abusing them or whether he likes being around children. And he probably did get an opportunity to touch some children, even just putting his arm around them and stuff like that. You just don't know. These sort of people, they seek out, they work in schools. They work, unfortunately, sometimes work in like charities like Save the Children. I don't know if you heard about the guy. Who was that guy? I must do a video on him one day, but it's just so upsetting. Some guy, joined one of those charities like Save the Children or something like that, and he's like abused thousands of children through his role in a children's charity. Children are vulnerable all over the world, and poor children are especially vulnerable. And didn't all these the peas, I'm not supposed to say the full word, don't they turn up at disaster areas and try and pick up children that have got where their parents have been killed or their family have been killed? You know, whenever there's a disaster like an earthquake or a war, or there's always these peas will turn up and try and steal children away, you know, because they can do it when there's a tragedy and everything's so confusing and that they take children. Children have disappeared in the UK. For immigrants, children have disappeared. And of course, it's impossible to keep track of these children. It's dangerous being a child.
Idea that he potentially worked at Disney World. And this is very interesting because it would place a person easily in contact with children, particularly if you're wearing a costume. We all know the story of John Wayne Gacy dressing up as a clown so that children would touch him. So that this becomes a way of breaking down boundaries and gaining confidence of children. And I think when we look at that age, we have to be very, very concerned that there probably were priors. And then, of course, it raises the question, if he turns out to be involved in the murder, is this the first time that has happened? I would say that I would not be surprised on either count.
Okay, so what he's saying is that he wouldn't even be surprised if he's been involved in other MURDERs of children. Yeah, because you do think when people start doing these things later on in life, you know, there's always got to be a first time, but the first times are normally in their late 20s, aren't they? I think that's the general, but of course there's exceptions. Look at Samantha Murphy and this Patrick Stevenson. He's only 22 years old, but every twonk has to have a first offence. You know, they even Ted Bundy had to have a first offence. Any murderer that you can think of, serial killers, Levi Belfield, Peter Sutcliffe, Dennis Nielsen, or any, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer, they always have to have a first offence. But it doesn't normally happen just out of the blue. There's normally signs, isn't there? So, yeah. Yeah, John Wayne Gacy. I think I did a video about John Wayne Gacy. I think that'll be on my serial killers playlist. Yeah, he used to dress as a clown and go to children's parties, etc. Though having said that, he did not kill children. So I don't know about that, to be honest, because he killed young men. I mean, he was gay and he killed young men, but really not children, you know, for age of 16 upwards. So he did not kill children, John Gacy, to be honest. But of course, but he liked to go, he was like, he was a pillar of his society. You know, he was another one. You know, he didn't have a placard on his head saying I'm a murderer. He was the pillar of society. He was involved in politics. He was, you know, he'd go around to the children, to the hospitals dressed as a clown. That was his alter ego. I think it was Pogo, wasn't it? Pogo, the name was. But he was not a child killer, to be fair. He was a killer, and he killed lots of young men. He liked young men, but not necessarily children. As far as I know, I don't think he killed any children. They were sort of, you know, young runaways, maybe, you know, young teenagers, some of them, but not what you would call children. I wouldn't say John Wayne Gacy murdered, but he was, you know, he was another one who got away with it for so long because he was a pillar of society. Because same as Ted Bundy, people don't suspect these people, you know, because they're not like some, you know, the weirdo who lives at the end of the road. Do you know what I mean? They're not. They're in society. They've got husbands, wives, children. They've got, you know, loving family. They're not, you know, normal people. What anyone would think were normal people. Dennis Rader, he's another one. You know, these are not people that look like what they are. You know, these are people who fit into society. You could be living next door to one. You could be stood behind one in the supermarket. You would not even register that there was anything strange about them. So, hi, Desi. We're just finishing now, Desi. Sorry. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that. I just wanted to have a little think. The most important thing for me there is, yeah, where was Madeleine's father, Madeleine's biological father? Was he really? I'm going to have to, I can't look into it over the next few days, but I will be looking into, you know, her father a bit more. Was he a good mate of Stefan's, that everybody's saying now, that he was a close friend of Stefan's? So he'll be kicking himself because he didn't realise that Stefan was a twonk. You know, so we shouldn't blame Jen so much for not realising that Stefan was a twonk. Twonks are hard to identify, aren't they? It's hard to identify a twonk. Sometimes it's the least person that you will suspect. Yeah, I will, Chumba. When I get a chance, I will have a look at that case. So many cases, unfortunately, isn't there? So many sad cases. You know, but yeah, I will have a look. I don't know about that case, so I will have a look. Okay, so I'm going. I may see you tonight. I'm not sure yet. See what transpires. Have a good day or a good evening or a good afternoon or whatever you're doing. Please leave your fingerprint on the like button. I'll put my little ticker on for a minute to say thank you. Something that I forget sometimes. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed already, please think about subscribing. And it's free, completely free. And don't forget to press the notification button so that then because I know I am a bit ad hoc sometimes. Quite often people ask me, oh, what's your schedule? I don't have a schedule because, of course, I work as well. I've got, you know, I teach Spanish. That's the other life that I've got. So sometimes I just, you know, like today, I've just happened to have a morning free because one of my students is on holiday today. And so I've done a couple of lives and it's great, but I can't always set up a schedule. So the only definite that I have really is on a Thursday evening. It's always a members live. And of course I'm going on location very soon, so we'll be revealing in the members live tomorrow night where I am going. Yeah, so membership, if people are interested in joining my channel, really helps to support me. It really helps to support the channel and keep it going. It's $1.99 a month to be a member, and it's cancelable anytime. And yeah, on the members live tomorrow, I'll be letting everybody know where I'm going on location. What else do I want to say? Oh yeah, and thank you. Lots of you have bought me Ko-fis or sent supers, etc. Thank you so much. Sent me emails. I got a lot of emails this morning because of the developments in the Samantha Murphy case, and I appreciate every email anyone sends me, but I probably won't get round to answering all the emails because there was a lot of them this morning, but maybe over the next week or so. So if I don't answer your email, it may take a week before I answer. I do try and answer it. So I do appreciate people sending me emails. You take the time out of your day to send me an email. I feel like I should take some time out of mine to reply. But anyway, so take care. I will see you very soon, as always, in the next video. Yeah, remember I forgot to turn my stream off early. Oh, yeah, it's a good job I wasn't doing anything strange, but I wasn't. I was just reading the internet. Yeah, remember to live and love wisely and carefully. Until I see you again, may your God go with you. Thank you.